I'm Maureen Moody and I'm the Curious Stylist. And today I'm super excited because I did an interview earlier this week with Kimberly Bamford, and she is an American board certified hair colorist. So because I'm taking this test in a few weeks, I think anyway, I'm supposed to be taking it April the 19th. But since there's this certain event, I'm not sure if it's postponed yet. But it doesn't matter. I'm still going on as if I'm going to take the test on the 19th anyway. So I'm excited because she was able to lay out what the day is like. And so I feel like this will make me feel a little bit more confident. So I hope that you like this material, and if you do, please like and subscribe, because every week I will be bringing more information on what it is like to get prepared for the American Board Certified Hair Colorist exam. So stay with me and we're gonna get into that interview, all right? So how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great this morning, thanks. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to catch up and do this interview. So how long have you been a hairstylist?
I've been a hairstylist for 34 years. I grew up with a mother and her four sisters that were all hairdressers. So
Wow.
I was born into it, but right after high school, went to beauty school and been doing it ever since.
That's so cool. Were you nervous at first when you were so young and being a stylist?
Honestly, I wasn't. No, I grew up with a little hair salon right in my house that my mother had. And she let me play with her scissors, and I cut friends' hair out in the backyard in the lawn chair in the summer, and their parents let them come back and have me do it again. So I was pretty used to it from the get-go, honestly. It's in my blood.
So you were natural, just a natural.
Kind of, yes. Love it.
So what made you decide to take the test?
You know, I think we owe it to our clients to be the best that we can be, to learn all that we can, to make their hair not only more beautiful, but healthy. It was a wonderful challenge. I've been doing hair for a long time. I taught hair color classes to other professionals through Farouk Chi. I taught color classes, learned a lot along the way teaching the classes, but I wanted the challenge. I wanted that big, beautiful framed certification on my wall in the salon to let clients know that I went above and beyond. There's no other certification like it. You can get certified for numerous hair color brand certifications, but they are not what the American Board Certified Hair Colorist exam expects out of us. We do a lot on our own at home. We pay a lot. We do a lot to the mannequins.
Yes,
on our own.
it's true.
We go to the test and do a lot to make sure that we know exactly how to take the best care of clients and their hair. That was important to me.
Yeah, that's it. That's why it's important to me too, because I just want to level up. I want to be able to say, hey, listen, I went before a board of my peers and they've tested my skills. So I found that to be really important. Was it scary when you first got there? Give me a rundown. What was it like when you were there?
It was kind of scary. I had a very exciting night the night before. I had gone home from where I was in the evening to find my electricity off because of a storm or something. House electricity was off, meaning I couldn't set an alarm properly because my phone maybe would die. I couldn't get ready in the morning, so I went and stayed at my lovely sister's house up the street. I got to my car the next morning and my car wouldn't start. I think I left the door or something. So I had to take my sister. It was a very stressful night before and morning of. When I got to the test, it was more of an excited kind of nervousness. I look back on the picture of me, I don't know, when they first take your picture, I was like, hee! It was a nervous excitement, but things got pretty quiet once you got into the testing. Things got serious. There wasn't any giggling or talking going on. We were right down to business.
So, what time does the test start at, and when does it finish generally?
At 8 o'clock is when registration is. They take your photos, and then you do go into an orientation. at the beginning of the day at about 8 o'clock, and it ends at 5, with a couple of little breaks in between. Because there's 3 segments, there's always a little break in between those segments.
Okay, so there's a break. How long did you say that break is? It about 20 minutes, a half hour?
It could be a half hour to an hour, depending on how quickly you are done with what you're doing. Like the written test maybe takes an hour or an hour and a half, but if you finished it in 45 minutes, you are free to walk out of the room and take a break. But I do recommend, even if they say, all right, everybody, needs to go back to wherever at 1 o'clock, don't leave the building or go outside for too much or anything, because I did find that they called us back a little sooner than they said. And I might have stressed out about that if I came back and nobody was around.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
Bring lunch. Bring your lunch with you for sure.
Bring your lunch. That's a good tip.
Yes, don't expect to go to lunch wherever the hotel is, no matter what. Just bring food with you. Be well hydrated and
right. Bring water and all that.
Yes.
And how would you recommend dressing that day? Here, let me just fix my phone. There we go. Okay, I feel better now.
Well, as per what the book tells us to do, you want to dress professionally, simply, non-distracting. You want to be comfortable for the day, of course, nothing too constricting, but we want to be representing the American Board of Certified Hair Colorists as best we can. So dress almost like you're going to an interview, to a serious kind of salon job. This isn't the time to be showing your personality too much. I wore black pants. It was a hot summer day, but I wore black pants, black flats, black jacket, a black fitted t-shirt. I don't even know if I wore any jewelry. My nails were neat and short and not colorful. My hair was done. My makeup was done lightly. Just look professional, serious, and undistracting, and you'll be fine.
Okay. Can we wear an apron during the test?
I don't remember an apron ever being mentioned one way or the other, but I would say if your apron is professional and clean and not distracting and not colorful and not,
Right. So like a black apron would be okay.
Why not? Yep.
Okay. For the written part, that's about an hour and a half, wouldn't you say?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the day, when you have your orientation, they give you a pretty clear outline of what your day will look like. And at which time you pick which team you're on. And depending on what team you're on, you will be starting with either your hands-on or your written exams.
Okay. What advice would you say for the written part? Is, just to study hard or
Well, I suggest trying to start getting your materials for the test 6 months before. I don't think 4 months would be too short either, but give yourself plenty of time. Read and reread the book. It's not, I don't know, only 200 and something pages. Reread, get things sinking into your head. But what I really recommend, if they still have it, and I think they do, is buying I believe it's $30 practice
yes,
exams.
they do. And I totally agree with you there.
So when you take those tests, you can get back which answers you got wrong and what the correct answers are. From there, I made good old-fashioned flashcards. There's probably an app for that, but I made good old-fashioned flashcards, and I felt like once I wrote down the several questions that kept throwing me off every time, as soon as I started trying to do the flashcards, it sunk in my head just from writing it down. So just study. Make sure you've got everything down. It's a multiple choice kind of test. They're not trying to trick you. If you're taking the test and you've run into any question that the way it's worded is just catching you, like you feel like you could know the answer, but you're concerned, it's always okay. I don't recall if you had to raise your hand and then they call you over, but it's always okay to ask specifically when they say this, are they meaning this? You very, very discreetly can ask questions, but raise your hand and have them call you over, or they can come over to you. They're there to help you, and they'll help you out if you need it in that way.
That's wonderful.
Oh, and I also just been making sure to go through the test in it's not, however many questions there are, I didn't feel like I was very shortchanged on time. I feel like you either know the answers or you don't. So go through and do it all. If there are questions you're unsure of, don't mark them off at all, but maybe put a little dash next
And
to
then
that
go back.
So yeah, it's just to make sure you don't miss anything afterwards. You know, and I realized when I was rereading the book to prepare for this little interview that they did say quite emphatically, you don't have to be the first one done. Don't try to be the first one done. So I almost think if you've like whizzed through it and slapped your pen down and walked out of the room, I bet they would be less than impressed. So take your time.
Okay. So just make sure that you're really understanding the material and you're not just whizzing by it. You know, be methodical about it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, for the when we do the practice, or when we do the practical part, the performance examination.
Yes.
How did you pack for that? That's the one thing that I'm like, I really better get my ducks in a row for that part.
Yeah, pack. I think they just want to see that you, whatever you arrive with, just, you know, don't be carrying 4 totes with things thrown in there. I think it could be a piece of luggage, or a lot of people do have traveling stylist kit things, but just think about what you really need. You don't need a 32-ounce tub of lightener. You can put it in a nice, neat Tupperware container. You might want, I'm guessing, 6 bowls, 6 brushes, a couple of towels are a really good idea, nice clean, maybe black towels to fold, a couple pairs of gloves. They say taping a little trash thing to the side of your table is okay. I didn't find that I need to throw out that much. You don't have to bring your whole thing of foils, but bring whatever you know that you're going to need. So you're not shortchanged. If you happen to be using the same color for 2 of the applications, you can bring that 1 tube of color, because you don't have to mix the whole tube up. It's usually not much that you'd be using at the same time. Same with developer, although I think with the developer, it should probably be brought in a bottle that says what the developer is, so that
they know.
I mean, you maybe could use a Sharpie and write it on a little container, but so maybe just go buy one of those small things of developers so that you have something small to bring. Pack it all in there nice and neat, and when you go to set up, you got to set it up nice and neat as well. Right.
And should I bring a tripod, or am I going to be attaching my clamp to the desk, like a table?
I believe it's attached to the desk. They may allow a tripod, and that's worth asking either beforehand, before going, if you can't find that in the manual, or during orientation.
Okay.
You could ask if that's possible, because it's possible that using the desk would be really short. I don't remember. I think we use tripods. You might be able to look at past pictures from their Facebook page or something to see.
Right. I think I'll check that out.
Yeah, it must be a tripod.
So when you were packing for the exam, did you like put each stuff in like individual baggies for like each quadrant of the head, or how did you?
I did not, because I wasn't bringing that much of a variety of things.
Okay.
I was using the same lightener for whatever quadrant I might use a lightener on, and I believe I brought 2 colors, maybe 5G and 7G.
Okay.
There's 2 tubes of color, so I didn't really feel the need to get complicated like that.
Okay, so don't get too complicated. I guess I'm just trying to like make sure, because I get like tripped up. I get a little too perfectionistic sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, all right, should I section each part out in quarters so that I have, you know, what I need and I'm not forgetting anything? But you're saying it's not that big of a deal. You can just...
Right, but at home you might want to set it up that way on your dining room table, just to make sure that all in all you have as much as you need for each quadrant.
Right. So when you started the performance examination and there was like the 4 quadrants, they say to start in the right rear quadrant, and then you got to do the left front, or the right front, and then you're going to start in the rear of the left and then do the front. They were suggesting that. Yes,
and that's so that you're not working around you're not working in between 2 finished sections.
Yes.
It makes it a little easier that way. If for some reason that throws you off, I don't think it matters at all.
or when you were taking that performance part of the test, did you find yourself to be like pretty nervous or feeling pretty confident through it?
I started off confident and then was getting a little nervous. Time was getting away from me. I made the mistake of not practicing at home truly with a timer to really do it. I used my head at home to really try and gauge how close together the sections needed to be, but I really didn't time myself numerous times. Time started getting away from me, especially when I had to do the highlight retouch part.
Right.
It's nerve-wracking because you're not supposed to really overlap at all.
Okay.
But they also don't want you taking completely new pieces.
Yeah.
They don't want to make it look like you're doubled up on highlights. They want it to make it look like you're just maintaining somebody's highlights. So I found myself getting a little lost in that. I found myself not folding the foils as neatly as I'd like to, and I lost on time. So one thing I would recommend is possibly bringing a good old-fashioned small clock that doesn't tick loudly, because that probably would not be polite.
Okay.
I think it would be totally okay just to put that right down at your station, just so that you can always be looking at the clock. They do kind of give you like maybe a half-hour heads up and a 15-minute heads up. Every time they'd say that, my heart would skip a beat.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining what it's like, and I'm like, ah. So that portion of the test is about an hour and a half as well?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Here, let me just look at the very bottom. Okay. Oh, so in the right rear section of the fine slices of the bottom, they said that they wanted about 12 sections in the back of the head. That's like their guideline. Did you have like a problem staying within that guideline, or did you find that to be, easy peasy? I just sliced and it was good.
That was easy enough with a little somewhat practicing at home. I did not practice all the hands-on as thoroughly as I should have, but I certainly went through the mannequin to figure out how much of a space that actually meant.
Yes. Yeah, I plan on doing that this week. I have, the time. So.
Yep.
So I'm going to be practicing on one of my my victims.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Okay. When you were doing the right front side, did you end up doing weaves or slices for the retouch part?
I did weaves for the retouch part, and I did slices for the alternate other one. So I did the weaves at home.
Okay.
The 1.5 inches away from the scalp or whatever it was supposed to be. So then I also went in and did the weaves to retouch it.
Okay. So
it might have been easier to do slices. Maybe.
See, I'm thinking, because they said that you can do either one or the other, and I feel like I'm being lazy if I don't do the weaves, but part of me is kind of like, I think I'm just going to stick with the slice and keep it like clean. You know what I mean?
You can do the weaves on the other part. I think.
Yeah, when we're doing the gray,
Mm-hmm.
Because they have that.
There is no lazy. If you're allowed to do either one and you think that's what's going to be a little faster for you to do the retouch, do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And you were saying when you're doing that retouch section that you shouldn't overlap hardly at all. So like maybe is 1 inch, do you think, acceptable? Because they said in the book a little bit of overlap.
I think a little bit means 1/4 inch. I don't think you should think in terms of inches. I think you should think in terms of centimeters.
Okay.
For the most part, it's all to keep the client's hair
integrity. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, not an inch. Think 1/8 of an inch and just see how you can do.
All right. I will be practicing that. So on the left-hand side of the head, there's 5 optional techniques that they want that they can choose from. In the front quadrant, which of the 2 were you assigned? Where the gray is.
I believe it was a gray reduction.
Okay.
And I think for that I used 7G, I
Okay.
believe.
For the gray reduction.
Yeah, and that was based on things, in the study guide having to do with gray hair and how to best blend it. And I think I used 7G for that.
Yeah, I was thinking about using 4G because they were saying something about a brown, but
You know what? Maybe
I think you 5. Okay.
maybe 5.
Yeah.
I think any of them would probably be acceptable, but 4 might be dark.
Right.
Not as much about the results, it's about them seeing what you're choosing for it as far as that goes. So
Okay. And when you're doing the rear quadrant on the left-hand side, which technique were you assigned for that?
is the rear quadrant the one that we did blonde?
Yes, where you did the double process with 1-inch regrowth.
I don't remember which one I was assigned for that. It was definitely not the retouch.
Okay.
And
They had the highlight, low light, or the reverse highlight.
it was the reverse. Just using
Okay.
color. And I think that also I used 5G for that one.
Okay. And did you use, for that portion, did you use a demi-permanent or a permanent?
I used a permanent with 10.
Okay.
I think I was using Pravana hair color at the time.
Okay.
That they say that their permanents become a demi-permanent when you use 10 volume. So I'm not sure if they came around and asked me, what are you using on this? And I might have said a 5G demi with 10 volume, and that was fine. They probably look at what you have there for a tube, but I do believe that's part of the questioning. They come around and ask.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and what I think is really cool is in the book, it has a chapter where they talk about the questions that they have assigned to ask you for each section.
Yes.
So that's good.
It is. What's tricky is finding the for sure correct answer within the studying to really be confident that you have the correct answer. I found was tricky. That's what made it nerve-wracking when they came around, because even though you had all those questions ahead of time and you studied and you wrote some down, there were some that were hard to figure out whether the answer was correct or not.
Yeah, I can imagine. That would be, because you've got that extra pressure too,
They're very nice, but
I'm sure they are.
Time's getting the best of you, and you're in there and you're doing your thing, and you kind of see that they're going around to other people, and you can sort of hear what they're asking, but it doesn't matter because you don't know what they're going to ask you. And then 2 of them come over with their clipboards. They do ask, can they ask you a question? And according to the book, you can say yes, and you can continue working without being seen as being rude if you want to continue working, or you can stop and listen, which I absolutely had to do to not get too confused. Like, I couldn't keep working and have them ask me without stopping. And your answer needs to be clear, confident,
and not too wordy.
Concise. Yep. You should not be bumbling over your words or too nervous about it. Act confident as if you are an American board certified hair colorist talking to a client in the salon.
That's good advice. That's very good advice. So I'm going to go on to the assessment and examination. And this is the part of the examination where they are going to have you, there's no testing material that you can review. They want you to just know how to handle certain situations in the salon and how you would best handle them.
Yes and no on that, though, because I found every question that was asked, besides the fact you get a visual and you get what looks like a client consultation, what the client wants, what the stylist said. But if you go back in the book during your study, make sure you pay attention to the natural hair color families and pay attention to what they are saying about depositing color and tint backs and bleaches and the levels of porosity. All of that comes into place when you're talking about doing this kind of work, because it's all about corrective work.
Okay. So you would say that they mostly focus on corrective work and how to best follow through with keeping the client happy, as well as, what's the most beneficial for their hair.
Correct. Yes. And some of them more simple than others. So it's corrective work, but there are some that your solution might be very simple, just a 2-step kind of process, and some that might be numerous steps. And you'll be able to see in the study guide several different examples of the forms that you'll be filling out to answer the questions. So they might include clarifying the hair, using a color remover, doing a bleach wash kind of thing. You can check off numerous things to get to the right answer.
And in the book, they were saying that, they'll accept many different answers, but they'll grade you on the sensitivity of the client's needs and their hair condition and keeping that in their health, the hair health.
So I think there's, just like any one of us could approach a color correction in the salon with a different set of steps, possibly getting about the same result. I think it's all about keeping it as simple as possible, keeping the integrity of the hair and the results.
Okay. Did they ask you those questions, or those were just the cards that you filled out?
Those were the cards that you filled out.
Okay.
A picture of the client, most of which are in the manual itself, except they don't all have the correction scenario. So most of the pictures they showed us were the same pictures that you can see of people with roots grown out or brassy hair.
Okay.
In the manual.
So you definitely refer to that manual and be best friends with it before you take that test.
Yes.
Okay. If you had to take this exam again, is there anything that you might do differently, or any advice that you could give to me going in?
Absolutely. My number one advice would be to make sure to have one or more old, cheap mannequins, especially to practice that bleach out portion. The portion in the back of the hair that you have to bleach out the mannequin to a level 9 pale blonde, and keep the hair's integrity and keep it an inch away from the scalp is pretty difficult to achieve. We're not talking about a nice normal virgin haired client in the salon, which is also a challenge. So I did do the platinum card technique.
Right.
I pre-folded all of my foils to 1 inch so that when they went in, I could really see that inch line to keep it away from, and really make sure you devote a day to do that, and that you're not doing it in between other things. You got to keep the temperature even. You've got to keep the slices tiny, 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 because with a mannequin, it's very easy for the lifting to get uneven with that. And I've got advice on the swatches. When you're making the swatches at home, besides the fact that you need to read the directions very carefully and make sure those slices are paper thin, bleach them before folding them so that you get a nice even bleach out with foil on them. Cut out and make twice the amount of swatches that you need, so that when you process them all, you can take them all off at different times and find your levels that way. I suggest waiting to fold your swatches until very shortly before the test, so that very shortly before the test, you can fold them just to check the levels, but very shortly before the test, days before, you can use a straightening iron on them.
Okay.
And fold them, because they'll start curling up. In the summer months when I was doing it, mine were really curling up, and since they were already stapled, ironing it was harder. And you also can get white duct tape, which makes it all look a lot nicer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was thinking about going with like a powder blue to go around. I don't know.
That would be perfectly fine too. I'm sure that the good old-fashioned gray silver type is still fine, but I think appearances do count with keeping everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was like, oh, maybe I should do pink and flowers, but no, I'll stick with that. I was going to have a little fun with it.
You might be able to get away with a little fun with that, but I wouldn't.
I'm not going crazy. I'm going to do like a Tiffany sort of feel to it.
Nice.
You know, powder blue. I think that'll be nice.
That will be. Then you can hang it up in your house after.
That's right. Right next to my little certificate. So I'm not.
Must have other advice. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Other advice would be on the mannequin head, making sure that you practice enough that you are able to figure out how many sections to do, because you cannot write on the mannequin head.
Yes.
You can't make little things on the mannequin head to see how many sections that you need to do. And to not be afraid to ask questions, especially in the orientation.
Okay. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And like you were saying, they want us to succeed. They're not mean, but it is still like, you know, a big deal. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it, but I don't know if I'll end up taking it in April or if I'm going to end up going. I'd like to take it at the earliest convenience. That's why I picked April in Chicago. But we'll see. I mean, if not.
That's one of the first ones, correct?
Yes.
In April, and the rest of them are throughout summer into fall?
Right. The next one is in June in Los Angeles. And I don't see me going there. So I'll either go to like Massachusetts in August, and then they have one in October in DC. But I'm hoping that maybe they could just reschedule the Chicago one to like a later date.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
I think they would almost have to if they have a bunch of people booked for it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to do it somewhere else. I hope so. I hope so for your sake. Because
Yeah.
you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm getting excited. So it was really, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. And you answered a lot of good questions for me. And I'm probably going to like show you the pictures of the extension or the swatches that I made, but that'll be later.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. And I also want to mention, if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to DM me on Instagram. It is hair artist Kimberly Bamford. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer and happy to help anybody along. Good luck to you in April.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope that you found that interview to be helpful, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for some outtakes. Bamford. And my dog is drinking water right now. And I'm the Curious Stylist, and today I'm gonna kill my dog. What's he doing? Every time I start the video, I hear him being naughty in some sort of way. See? Isn't he adorable? Okay.